Just getting set up, folks. We'll get started in just a second. Good evening. Hope we're all doing well. Just chat amongst yourselves, folk. My little laptop has decided to grind to a halt. I am here, Steve. Don't worry, I'm just setting up. My laptop has died. This is not good. Okay, you guys probably want to see what I'm doing. Seeing as I've totally wrecked the intro. There we go. Hello, folks. Totally wrecked the intro. Thank my laptop for that. And the crackles you can hear are the fact that my graphics card on my desktop computer is struggling to run OBS and Studio One and 2 monitors at the same time. So, yeah, so just pardon if you can get past those, then great. You guys have always got past all the deficiencies, shall we say, of my live streams over the last couple of years that I've been doing these. And I think we have the best quality we've ever had for streaming from my studio. So a few occasional crackles, they're not a big deal, I don't think. So you're probably all wondering why Songwriting Simplified is just me tonight and not Jonny, and why it's on my channel. Well, the simple answer is that it's Jonny's daughter's birthday, Amanda. It's her birthday today, so Jonny is taking her out for a birthday dinner. And so he had forgotten to let me know about that, so which is easily done. And so he said this afternoon, he said, "Hey, could you do the show tonight on your own?" I said, "Yeah, that's fine." So I was planning on playing all sorts of really nice intro music and everything. I had it all sorted out, and then my laptop decided to overheat and shut itself down, and I've been trying to boot it back up. But it's working now. I can see the chat. Lollipop Guild says it sounds great over there. Well, that's fantastic. You've not heard trying to play Studio One yet, so it does crackle a little bit more when that happens. So this is indeed very simplified tonight, says Just Bob. Yeah, a little bit. It's a little bit more simplified than normal. So normally you'd get the banter between me and Jonny, so I can't really banter with myself, so I think it's going to have to be between me and you guys. You guys are going to have to help me out a bit. So tonight's subject for Songwriting Simplified was going to be all to do with the December 10th challenge, which took place on Sunday. And you guys released a whole bunch of songs, which was exactly what we were after. That's what I wanted to happen. I wanted everybody, as many people as possible, really, to get a piece of music out there to the world on that date. And you guys did a great job. There are some really, really fantastic songs that you guys have put out there. And I want to congratulate and applaud every single one of you that took part for doing so, because, you know, it's hard, actually, getting your work out to the world and feeling confident and feeling good about getting your work out to the world is a big part of the challenge of being a songwriter, or aspiring to be a songwriter, is that your very personally crafted and created song is out in the public domain for everybody to hear, especially on the internet. You know, as soon as you put it up on the internet, the entire world is able to go and check it out, which, you know, can be a little bit daunting. But you know what? It's a good thing. Getting your music out to the world is a good thing. Because it means it gives people a chance to check out what you do and what you enjoy doing. That's the important thing, is that you enjoy writing songs. And if people... so by putting it up online, you're giving people the chance to share in your enjoyment of writing the song. So, and all the songs that have been submitted have been really, really fantastic. Jonny, Gaib and I have been very, very impressed with the standard and the quality of your songs that you put out there. It's really, really great. So I think we had somewhere between 12 and 15 or so submissions, which is very cool. I was hoping for somewhere between 15 and 20, so 12 to 15 is pretty good. So that's really great. And so that kind of encourages me that maybe this is a good thing, so maybe I will do a few more of these next year. I will set a few more songwriting challenges, and maybe I will kind of... because I made this challenge quite open-ended, because really it was the first one and a first experiment to see how it would go and to see how many people would take part. So maybe I will kind of make it a little bit more specific, the next challenge, and the next one after that. Maybe it'll have a little bit of a more specific brief about what you need to do to complete the challenge. So hopefully these are a good thing, and hopefully you are enjoying those. Just Bob says I needed to back out and come back in. Okay. You guys having problems? Bob says I can't hear anything. Well, hopefully you can hear, because I can see my metering rising up and down when I'm talking in OBS, and my ears are monitoring what's going on. My output interface to YouTube, so you should be able to hear. I hope so, anyway. Sounding good. Okay, good. Good. Bob Powell says, no, I think I'll have to restart computer. Okay, sorry about that. Just Bob says, all okay. And Joseph says, you're good there as well, and you can hear and see. Excellent. Jammy J says, I can hear you and see you clearly. Fantastic. She Studios Sheila says, I have good signal. Excellent. No problem, says Kirk. Okay, that's good. Enough of you are reporting that there's no problem. It must just be an individual particular case. Okay, so you're probably all kind of a little bit December 10th challenged out, because I have been talking about it an awful lot for the last couple of months. But now that it's complete, you're probably thinking, hey, I should move on to something else now. Well, yeah and no. So the original plan for tonight's show was that Jonny and I were going to take you through how we put together our songs for the challenge. So obviously Jonny's not here to do that, so I'm going to do that on my behalf. So I will just take you through my song, and then we can just talk. After that, I can take your questions on songwriting. And if you've got any questions about the December 10th challenge, or if you want to talk about things that you learned things that you found that were good, things that you found difficult about the challenge. Let's get those in the chat and we can talk about those, because I think it's good to talk about what we learn in something like this. And I think it's also good to talk about things that we found easy and things that we, you know, would look back to and think, hey, this could be improved, or I would like to improve this. Because that, you know, being able to reflect upon your work and come up with a strategy to develop and improve is how you get better. It's, you know, it's how you get better as a mix engineer. It's how you get better as a songwriter. It's how you get better as a musician. You know, that's the best way to practice your craft. You know, whether it's playing piano, playing guitar, playing drums, singing, mixing, mastering, recording, whatever part of being creative with music that you excel in or is your strength, the way you get better at that is by listening to what you're doing, reflecting upon it, and looking for the good things, but also looking at things that need to improve, and then developing a strategy to improve them, and then setting a target to improve it by, so that you always have a constant sense of moving forward, and you know, you've got something that's attainable and easy. You know, you can observe your progress easily. Does that mean you need to write a logbook? No, not necessarily. It might help some people to write a logbook. So when they write a song, you know, and they get to the end of it and they release it to the world, they listen back to it and they maybe have a column that lists all the good aspects of the song and the process, and then another column that lists all the things that you need to improve about the process and about the song itself, so that you take that forward into the next song. So I think those are really, really incredibly valuable, and as we go forward with challenges, we're going to kind of help you develop strategies for that exact thing. That's kind of where I'm thinking that we are going to go. We've got a good lot of people here. Dan Soul is here, Fred Grover, Beatrice is here, and Kelly Winters. Let's see, Anne Martin Weeks is here as well. Fantastic. So the good regular crowd are here. Okay, so now that I've done some talking, and Sergeant Barnes is here. Good to see you, buddy. Sergeant Music Barnes. Who else do we have here? Oh, Mika's just arrived. Mika Han. He says, nice to be here. Good. Well, it's nice to have you here too. So I think I will, at this point, take you over to Studio One. And I will walk you through this song. Now, as you can see, I've got lots of interesting and somewhat possibly garish colors going on. I don't know where this color scheme came from, to be honest. Some of it's my regular color scheme, like vocals in various yellow shades, piano blue, guitars kind of a very pale green, drums a much darker green, and then we have the orchestra here in this really rather garish pink. I don't know why I picked this. I just wanted to make sure that it stood out so that I knew which were the orchestra tracks and which were all the rest. So anyway, this song has an orchestra, as you kind of heard on Monday. You heard a little bit of this. I have to admit, it wasn't going to have an orchestra. It really wasn't. It was just going to be my band plus me doing all the vocals, and it kind of grew arms and legs. So here's the thing. I had, like, most of the song I was ready to mix. I'll be really honest. On the morning of December 10th, I was ready to mix and master this guy so that it was ready to go on the show that night, which is when I was going to release it. So I thought, I've got the rest of the day just to kind of mix this and master it, and then, hey, I can maybe go and have the afternoon off and go and run some errands and that kind of stuff. And I was walking home from school run, having dropped off my kids at school, and I thought, as I was just running through the song in my mind, where it was up to, I started thinking, you know what, it's a little bit empty and a little bit flat. And I don't mean flat in terms of pitch, I mean kind of meh. You know, it kind of, it's a good song, but it just kind of meh. You know, it just kind of didn't have any, there wasn't really anything to hang your hat on when I'm not singing, or, you know, there was just a lot of space, and I thought, it's got too much space. What can I do? What can I do? What can I do to make this song kind of come to life a bit more? And so that's when I started thinking about, hey, maybe a string quartet might actually help this particular song, because the song itself is quite emotional, so why not a string quartet? So I came back in and I got the Persona Symphonic Orchestra string section out, and I just started putting in some string parts. And before you know it, I was kind of thinking about flutes and clarinets and French horns and trombones and a tuba and trumpets. And, you know, so within about 2 hours, I had a full orchestral arrangement to go with this. So what I will do is I will play you the song without the orchestra. So we'll go over to the orchestra bus and we will mute that guy. And we'll play the song without, or at least I'll play some of the song without it. And hopefully you'll see what I mean. And then I'll bring the orchestra in. And then what I'll do is I'll strip away the band to leave just the orchestra and the vocal and maybe the piano. So you can hear what I did orchestrally. Because I'm not a classical composer. I'm not a classical arranger. I arrange for big bands. If I do any arranging at all, I arrange for big bands and brass bands and that kind of stuff, but I don't really do classical orchestral arranging at all. I have not very much experience of that. So what I came up with was a little bit of guesswork and a little bit of help from my friend Stu Kennedy, who is a film score composer. And he had some very, very helpful advice, which I took on board. And so I'll play you the end result of that in a little while, if you guys are up for that. Greg is here. He says, good evening. Took me a few minutes to find it. Yes, sorry about that. We kind of posted last minute. Or rather, I posted about an hour before showtime in the Songwriting Simplified page and in the home studio trainer groups that we are on my channel. So sorry about that if you missed out on that. Okay. Let's play from the beginning. Why the heck not? And hopefully the crackles won't be too bad.
Journey, an adventure into the unknown. I was just a child, leaving a life behind, making some brand new friendships I hoped I'd have for life. Making music, playing on the team. These were the things that I live for. I moved on to the city to find out who I am, making some brand new friendships that would speak into my life. There are places and faces I'll never forget. I've had the time of my life. If only you could see me with my kids and wife. I tell you, I have it all because of you. Because of you.
Okay, so lots and lots and lots and lots of space without the orchestra, particularly in the big gaps in the verse melody. For example, kind of here at the start of the verse 2.
Making music, playing on the team. These were
Kind of a whole lot of nothing going on in that gap there, which is fine when you're in the first verse of the song. You're just kind of setting the scene in the first verse of the song, so it's kind of okay to have kind of a little bit of extra space in your arrangement at that point. But when you're into the second verse of the song, you've moved on. You moved into the meat and veg of the song at that point. So really, you want to be starting to kind of fill those gaps with some extra interest that's going to keep the listener engaged, because, you know, we are at this point 1 minute 13 seconds into the song. So it's important by this point, you really have to have the listener hooked. You need to have their attention grabbed. So either you're going to grab their attention by a very, very persuasive lyric, or a very, very evocative and interesting melody line, or there are other arranging devices like counter melodies, obligatos, those kind of things I talk about fairly frequently on this show, that would fill in those gaps and give the listener something to keep their ears stimulated with. Because otherwise, I mean, particularly in this day and age, with a younger audience, you know, younger people will listen to 30 seconds of a song and then skip on to the next one in their playlist. So, you know, if they happen to be on an online music platform like iTunes, very, very easy to skip through to the next song. You don't want them to do that to your song, because if they do that to your song, they're not going to buy it. It's simple as that. If they skip to the next song after 30 seconds, you've lost the customer. They're gone. You're not going to get them back. They're not going to come back, revisit the song, and purchase it. So you need to really grab them straight away with something that is interesting, that's something that's going to go, maybe I should listen to this for a little bit longer and see kind of how it unfolds, or what's going to come next. So this, for me, is where things like expanding your arrangement for your song is incredibly useful. And I'm just aware that you're kind of staring at the Studio One screen. I'll sort that in just a minute, because I still have things to show you in Studio One. So yeah, this is, you know, expanding your arrangement, adding obligato parts. If you don't know what an obligato part is, an obligato is quite simply an instrument or another voice that has like an answering phrase to a question phrase in the vocal. So maybe, I mean, I don't necessarily mean question as in lyrically a question. I mean as in you have, you know, phrase A sung by the vocal, and then you answer that with phrase B in a flute or a saxophone or a trumpet or something to kind of complement that first phrase. So maybe the first phrase goes up in pitch at the end. Well, maybe your complementary phrase does the opposite. It goes down in pitch or something like that. So there's always constantly a dialogue going on in your music, and that's what engages people. I mean, that's what engages people in a film, is good dialogue. Good dialogue that helps progress a storyline. So you want to capture your listener in exactly the same way as you would capture the moviegoer when they watch the trailer of your film. The same thing, you have to grab them very, very quickly, otherwise they're not going to go and book the tickets to see your film at the cinema. So very important that you have these little devices like obligatos, like counter melody. Counter melody would be kind of like where you have a secondary melody that maybe runs and interweaves between your main melody, but never takes over, never dominates, but provides a little bit of counterpoint, another musical term, to juxtapose your main melody. Because believe it or not, the human ear is capable of listening to and discerning with accuracy up to a dozen melodies happening at the same time. And the ear can discern each different one. And it can discern different instruments. So now that you know that piece of science, make use of it, because that's how you engage people's brains. And the more you engage their brains, the more you engage them in your song. And then once you've got access to their brains, you then have access to their heart and to their emotions. And once you can evoke or create an emotion in their heart, an emotional response to your song, you have them. You absolutely have them, and they will purchase your song. And not only that, they will come back for your next song, which is what you really, really want. You don't want this song just to sell itself on its own, but you want this song to bring that fish in so that you can reel it back in for the next song and reel it back in for the next song, and you build a reputation, and so it goes. And that's how songwriters become successful. The average teen nowadays has the attention span of a turnip. Sounds like Baldrick. Yeah, 7 to 10 seconds. So in those first 7 to 10 seconds, you have to do something in your song that is going to persuade your listener to listen for longer. So that's where, for me, with this song, because the tempo is slow, I have to work harder. So I have to have more information. And that's where this orchestra part comes in handy. So what do I have orchestration-wise? I have the whole orchestra represented, more or less. It's a bit of a chamber orchestra as opposed to a full-on orchestra. We have flutes here. We have 3 flutes. We have 3 clarinets. We have 3 trumpets, 5 French horns, 3 trombones, a tuba, a whole string section, and then timpani and a cymbal, suspended cymbal with mallets rolling on it. Excuse me. And then that's what really I've got. The other instrumentation is kind of my standard rhythm section plus the flugelhorn. And somebody said they like the sound of the flugelhorn. Yes. It is very nice. I've got an acoustic guitar and I've got a Telecaster that only comes in the choruses. And it's going through a tremolo pedal. And the idea is that creates kind of like another texture, another layer of sound that brings some girth to the middle of the song in terms of the mix, and also it gives some weight to the chorus a little bit more because it doesn't appear anywhere else. That's another arranging device. You don't necessarily need to have all of your instruments playing all of the time. I know that's kind of quite common practice in a rock band situation where you've got, 2 guitars, bass and drums, and, 3 vocals. So the temptation there is you want to have your guitars going all the time and your bass going all the time, your drums going full tilt all the time. And that's how, that just unfortunately can become really boring to listen to. Even if your song is fantastic, if you've got that constant wall of distorted guitar sound, after a while, you're going to lose the interest of your listener because their ears will become fatigued very quickly. So change it up. Have some extra elements in your song that will make you stand out. Even if you are a classic rock band, have some extra element that makes your song stand out. So there you go. A little bit of advice. All right, so let's strip the band away. So we will, what will we do? We will bring the orchestra back in. We will keep the little shaker going because that's going to give us a sense of forward motion. We'll lose the drums, we'll lose the bass, and we will lose the virtual guitar sparkle because it was doing a strumming pattern that I couldn't play. And we'll keep the piano in. And we'll keep the flugelhorn in. So basically we're losing the drums and the bass fundamentally, and a couple of guitar parts. Alright, so let's take it back And with those things out of the way, with the mallets on the drums out of the way, and I'll explain how I came to the mallets on the drums a little bit later. You guys are chatting away about scouts, I think. Kelly says, I'd kind of like to see the track view as the cursor moves along the timeline. Yeah, I can do that for you. No problem. The intro in the song is gone. Yeah, that's quite often. Okay, let's get rid of the mixer. Okay, and we'll just keep it like this. Just remember what you've got muted, okay? Because they're muted at the bus level, so you're not necessarily going to see it here. Let's go from the beginning again.
The day has dawned as I made that epic journey, an adventure into the unknown. I was just a child, leaving a life behind, making some brand new friendships I hoped I'd have for life. Making music, playing on the team. These were the things that I lived for. I moved on to the city to find out who I am, making some brand new friendships that would speak into my life. There are places and faces I'll never forget. I've had the time of my life. If only you could see me with my kids and wife, I tell you, I have it all.
Okay, so you can hear a little bit of how I'm building up the orchestra. So let's lose all the vocals, so we can really just hone in on just the orchestra with the guitar. Coming into verse 2, and you can see how I've begun. I mean, you can see it visually as much as anything else. I've avoided the temptation of having the orchestra pretty much all the way through. I'm building it up and building it up. I'm thickening the texture and increasing the dynamics right the way up to the end. I'll play a little bit at the ending in a wee bit as well. Okay, so there you can see I'm kind of using flutes and French horns, kind of they're kind of answering each other a little bit. And when we get into verse 3 here, if I bring back just the lead vocal, I didn't want to do that. let's mute those backing vocals again. So when I bring just the lead vocal back in now with the orchestra, you can hear how these flutes and clarinets and French horns weave in and out of each other and in and out of the melody and the vocal without ever overwhelming either each other or the vocal. They're designed to complement the vocal.
Another day, another epic journey. An adventure of trust and faith. Watching my children growing, leaving their home behind.
Trombones are now in to build the texture.
Making some brand new friendships I hope they'll have for life. There are places and faces I'll never forget.
Okay, so that was where the trombones came in for the first time, halfway through this verse. And that just kind of thickens up the texture a little bit more and also increases the dynamics a little bit more because the story is moving forward and there's a bit more of a sense of urgency about this as we build towards the flugelhorn solo and then the ending, which is the final chorus where trumpets come in for the very first time. So I'm going to play just this bit from about halfway through the flugelhorn solo into the final chorus, and then I'll show you how I do the opposite of building up the texture and the orchestration and then thinning it back out again, and thus without really doing any volume automation. As you can see, there is none. I've done it via arranging and orchestration, so the texture just gets thinner and thinner. I start taking away some of the thickness of the things like the brass and the strings until you end up with something that's nice and thin and nice and light at the end. But also, note these two tracks at the end here, timpani and cymbals. You see that they only come in twice. One is right here at the end of the flugelhorn solo going into this final chorus, and then the other time is at the very end of the song. So if like me, you're a timpani player, this is typical of what you would get in an orchestral score if you're a timpani player. You spend a lot of time counting bars, because when you're playing timpani, unless you're playing something by Mahler or Stravinsky or Holst, you're not going to be doing an awful lot, because timpani is a color instrument primarily. A lot of percussion in an orchestral context is color. So you're adding a tone color. And so that's what timpani would do. It would just occasionally come in and add some percussive quality and also a little bit of weight as well. That's what timpani is really, really good at, is just adding a little bit of weight and gravitas to a particular point in a song. So that's pretty much what I've used them for here, as simply an effect, because, you know, here we are getting into, like, we're nearly at bar 89, and these two guys have done nothing for the whole song so far. So let's see what effect, what impact this actually has on going into this chorus, because this chorus here is otherwise completely identical to this chorus here and the one before it. The only difference is, as you can see, there's a lot more going on in the orchestra when we get to this chorus. This final chorus is a lot louder, but again, that's nothing to do with volume automation or turning stuff up. This is to do with increasing the amount of instruments you've got going on and how they contribute. And then the real trick of arranging here, in particular, because I'm dealing with orchestra, is making sure that the instruments are not tripping over each other, that they complement each other. So I have flutes and clarinets working together. I have French horns and trombones working together. And then I have the trumpets and the tuba also working together, even though the tuba is kind of like a good 2 octaves almost below the trumpets. The tuba comes in just to add some girth and some weight to the bottom for this final chorus. But the trumpets come in at pretty much the same time to add some sparkle to the top. and a little bit of kind of like sense of a kind of sense of stateliness. Trumpets kind of do that. Brass, you know, you introduce brass in a kind of like fanfare-like approach, then that brass-like quality of the trumpet will just, you know, it will pick straight through, like knife through a butter through your song, and it can be really, really effective. So let's see how that plays out at this point, and then we'll get to questions because we've got about 20 minutes to go.
There are places and faces I'll never forget. I've had the time of my life. If only you could see me with my kids and wife, I tell you I have it all because of you. Because of you.
I'm going to take the vocals out. And the flugelhorn. So we've got just the orchestra now. Alright, so that provides a nice kind of bit of color at the end there. So let's bring all of those back in. In fact, let's bring everything back in. I'm going to go back to my mixer and just check that everything is, yes, everything is good. Let's take the mixer away again. And we'll play this ending bit here with everybody in, so you can hear kind of the whole sense of what happens going into this final chorus and the impact it has.
And wife, I tell you, I have it all because of you. Because of you. Because of you.
And there you have it, guys. That is pretty much a guided tour of how I worked in an orchestra into an otherwise relatively flat and empty sounding song. I had none of the orchestral stuff until the morning of December 10th. So I hope you found that instructive and interesting and helpful. And now we'll get to your questions, and you can ask me any questions about this song in particular, and also just songwriting and arranging in general, if you guys are up for that. Rich says, is all this we are listening to MIDI? Rich, some of it is. The orchestra is. The orchestra is the Presonus Symphonic Orchestra. The VG Sparkle is a virtual guitar. I don't know if you came across that. A while back, Presonus teamed up with UJAM, the company that make Virtual Guitarist, and Virtual Guitarist Sparkle was basically given away for free to those that have Studio One. So, which I thought was particularly cool, and so I thought I would check it out. And I downloaded it, and I've been using it ever since, and it's actually really, really good. It's you can't go crazy with chords, let's just say. you know, you can't use anything particularly advanced, so you have to think a little outside of the box if you're going to be using, you know, advanced chord changes in your song. Like a little bit like I am in here, you probably haven't noticed that there are some really rather strange and unusual chords in this song. So I had to think a little outside the box for the VG Sparkle so that it would play appropriate voicings. But yeah, I couldn't otherwise get this little strumming pattern in the flugelhorn solo. So this is basically the VG Sparkle on its own. Okay, oops, didn't mean to do that, sorry. I just probably made everybody leap 20 feet into the air. Sorry about that. So yeah, so as you can see, some of the chords for the VG Sparkle sound a little bit odd on their own, but when you combine them with the bass part and the piano part, they fit. I'm just using, like, at the end there, it's just playing a straight C major chord. Is it C major chord? No, it's a straight D chord. But the bass is playing an E, so you have like a D over E kind of going into the E flat major 7 into the final chorus. So that was a virtual instrument. The trem telly, that's a real instrument. The acoustic guitar, a real instrument. The piano is my Nord flugelhorn, my flugelhorn. And the drums are real, the shaker is real, and all the other percussion stuff is real. The timpani and cymbals come from the Presonus Symphonic Orchestra library, but the shaker and the drums are real as well. So yeah, using timpani mallets on the drums actually. I said I'd explain that in a minute. Yeah, Sparkle is a lot of fun. Kelly said someone asked about the plugin and effects. How about a word on those? Okay, I can do that. If I go over to this screen so you can see Studio One again, and we'll get the mixer up. Somebody said something about what I have in the inspector, I think. I don't have anything in the inspector other than what's on an individual channel, so I'm not really sure what that was about. Somebody asked about what's in the inspector. There isn't anything plugin wise in the inspector. I'm using fairly simple, fairly basic, mostly stock native Studio One plugins. So I've got Pro EQ, compressors chucked around. Bass is going through Guitar Rig 5 using one of their bass amps there. Trem telly is going through a beat delay, a tremolo, and the ampere with a splash of EQ and just a hint of reverb. Normally I don't put reverb on a track on its own, but on this instance I did because it's a different reverb than the other reverb that's used on the effects channel. Same with the acoustic guitar. I used a beat delay here as well. And the beat delay here really was to just give it a sense of, you know how Jonny has his signature acoustic guitar sound where he plays it twice? Well, I didn't, so I needed to kind of fudge that somehow, so that's what I used the beat delay for. Basically, the delay is panned. So I have, as you can see, I have the guitar panned right, while the delay is panned left. And it's set very fast, so basically the delay comes almost immediately after the real sound, and that gives the guitar some width. Let's see, what else do we have? We have some fat channel on the lead vocal here. We have, what do we have here? We have the LA2 style compressor on the vocal. Needed something nice, a compressor that's nice and smooth for this particular song, so that's why I went for the LA2. Not the LA2. Yeah, the LA2 style compressor. And then the BVs are going through the same compressor, slightly different setting, but same compressor. But it also has a de-esser on it, and then we've got some EQ going on. I've scooped out some low mids, some upper mids, and a little bit of the highs as well. I wanted the BVs to be a little bit darker than the lead vocal, so that it sits back further in the mix. And that's pretty much it. We've got, as you can see, there's not a whole lot of, there's not a lot going on. I've done most of this with very, very minimal mixing, to be really honest. I haven't really used very much third-party stuff. I'm using the repeater from Slate Digital, and I'm also using the Room Reverb, and that's it, really. So there's not a lot going on. What settings do you have on the timpani? Timpani, just a little bit of EQ. Just a little boost down at 100 Hertz and a little booster just after 1K. Wanted to get the impact of the mallets on the drum head here, and a little bit of bass boost here. And that's it. There's no compression there, just EQ. Martin says, also this is one of those tricks using band in the box where I might take the S1 arrangement and let band in the box analyze and just render the guitar tracks to fill in the space. Could do that. That seems like an awful long way round to do things, but yes, you could do that. Lollipop Guild says you got a nice rumble on the timpani. How did you add that effect to it? Oh, it's just a low boost. That's all it was. Just a low boost. And I kind of did temporarily the opposite with the bass. So I sucked some low end out of the bass. So I allowed the timpani to come through just a little bit. Then, of course, you've got the tuba. There's no processing on the tuba part, but the tuba part comes in kind of almost at the same time. So you go from having reasonable amounts of bass with the bass guitar to having quite a lot of bass at that crescendo. And then the cymbal. Now, admittedly, I think I could bring in a little bit more EQ on that cymbal to brighten it up a bit, because I personally was thinking, just listening to it, that the cymbal was getting a little bit lost. So maybe we could do that. Maybe we could just like grab as a shelf about 6 or 7K, about 3 or 4 dB, something like that. Lose some of the bottom end, because we don't want the thump of the mallets on the cymbal. We just want the top of the cymbal to cut through. So maybe that would work a little bit as well. So let's go check that out. A couple of bars before. Yeah, that was much more effective with the cymbal there. It cut through quite nicely. So there you go. How did you get the rumble on those? Is that the delay settings? No, there's no delay on the timpani at all. It's just Pro EQ and a boost, a big boost, a nearly 6 dB boost at 110. And then I'm rolling off the extreme low, which I don't need. And that's pretty much it. Yeah, too easy. Martin says, it's tricky to do, but I like combining sparkle with some of the Presence guitar samples. Are you passing tones and fills using Presence and rhythm guitar sparkle? Yeah. I could have done that here. I didn't, but I could have done. I chose to basically have 2 real guitars, and then the VG sparkle only comes in one spot, and that's the flugelhorn solo, and then it carries on into the final chorus, and that really is just to provide a little bit of extra forward motion and a sense of urgency that the song doesn't have at any other point. So that was really why I brought the VG sparkle in, because as you can see, where are we? Where's the VG sparkle? Here it is. Look, see, it doesn't come in until the flugelhorn solo kicks in. So if I was to mute the VG, and play this section here without it, you'll kind of see the impact that it doesn't have because it's not there. Alright, so now let's bring it back in. So there you go. And the backing vocals are actually really simple. They don't sound like they are, but they really are. And they are just there to provide some color and some support to the vocal in the chorus. Let's go and solo those up just for fun, so you can hear kind of what I did. Now this is all me. These 4 vocal parts are primarily me. I did get other people to overdub them because I didn't want just my voice to completely dominate. But this is kind of what we've got, and so I was stacking myself, essentially. So I'm singing harmonies against myself here. Let's check these out.
Places and faces I'll never forget. Had the time of my life.
And then they come in again at the end here.
Because of you.
Yeah, check out some of the bad edits there. But I get away with it because they're in the background. They're not right up there in your face. So I get away with the fact that there's a couple of bad edits there. But just for fun, listen to this. Places and faces I'll never forget. Had the time of my life. And that is me not singing falsetto at all. I'm singing normal voice, backed up a little bit from the mic. I'm probably standing about 2 feet away from the mic. Places and faces I'll never forget. Had the time of my life. I just thought that'd be quite entertaining. Alright, so there you go. So that's kind of my song, Places and Faces. And just in case you were wondering what the song was all about, the song is essentially, I think I described it on Monday. But for those of you that weren't there, I essentially described it by saying that hang on, let me just do a quick save. Because I've been tinkering around with this song for a while. So, for those of you that weren't there, I was essentially describing this, and I was saying that this song is basically a letter addressed to long lost friends, basically friends that are no longer with us, that I knew and hung out with a lot when I was a kid. So, you know, we went to school together, we played in bands together, and all of that. We played for the same cricket team, you know, stuff like that. So these were my friends, and some of them are dead. So and they never got to see kind of like how my life unfolded. So this was me basically saying, hey, you guys had an impact on my life and helped excuse me, helped shape the direction of it. And I wanted to basically acknowledge them in some way. And I thought, hey, this maybe, you know, I could write a letter. Oh, what's going on here? Hang on. Something's just popped up on my screen. Okay. I don't know what that is. What is going on here? I don't know. Okay. Sorry about that. Got rid of that. Windows Media Player was wanting to update itself. Great timing. Love it. All right, so I said we'd get to your questions, and I've kind of answered a few of them. But I'd like to answer a few more, so I will allow us to overrun just a little bit. So let's see. Kelly's been ill since Sunday. Well, I'm really sad to hear that, Kelly. I'm sorry about that, mate. I hope you are getting better. Rich Wrestler says, if a tech reset my Studio One and I lost all my presets like presents, how do I get my Studio One back before this tech got hold of my computer? You could do a full reinstall. So you could maybe go in, if you go into Studio One again, I've just closed Studio One out because I thought we were kind of done with Studio One. But yeah, if you go into, when you have Studio One open up, you've got a song open up, go to the Studio One menu and then go down to installations, and it should show you what's there and what isn't, and then you just install stuff that's not there. So if you've got presets missing, just let's say you've got presents and all of that and all of the instruments missing from presents, then just go and reinstall those again, and you'll be good to go, I should think. Sergeant Music Barnes says, lost my bass player from high school last year. I wrote him a poem, but promised I would not make a song unless his family ask. Yeah, that's cool. I mean, these friends died a long time ago, unfortunately. So it's been a long time. So I kind of figured that I could. Dietrich says, gotta go, you guys. See you tomorrow. Thanks, JL. Have a good night. I'm going to try and work some. Okay, you do that. Just Bob says, my song deals with 2 tragedies I've had to deal with in my life. Yeah, well, you know what tragedy is? So often the inspiration for a lot of great songs. A lot of John Denver's songs sprung out of events that happened to him, things that happened in his life. And he would just write songs about them because, you know, that was his way, one of his ways in which he kind of dealt with things, dealt with problems, was writing a song about it. Rich says, nice trumpet, instantly playing. Wish I had a trumpet. Yeah, it's a flugelhorn. It's not a trumpet. I do like trumpet, but I prefer flugelhorn because it's a much more mellow sound and not quite so piercing on the ears when you play high note. Okay, some of you guys have got to go, so that's okay. If there aren't any more questions, then that's cool. Then we will just wrap it up here. Normal service will be resumed for Songwriting Simplified next Wednesday. And Jonny will be back on his regular live streams again tomorrow. So go and check those out. And I will be back here on my channel on Sunday for Sunday Night Live. And as we are beginning to get close to Christmas, here we're going to start getting a bit festive. Okay, so there will be, yeah, maybe you might see a few festive decorations on the channel. So look forward to those, and I hope you enjoyed my kind of guided tour through my December 10th song, and kind of like how I go about building a song, getting it together and arranging it and stuff. So I will see you all on the next show, whenever that's going to be. Take care, everybody. Good night.
Dawned as I made that epic journey, an adventure into the unknown. I was just a child, leaving a life behind, making some brand new friendships I hoped I'd have for life. Making music, playing on the TV. These were the things that I lived for. I moved on to the city to find out who I am, making some brand new friendships that would speak into my life. There are places and faces I'll never forget. I've had the time of my life. If only you could see me with my kids and wife, I tell you I have it all because of you. Because of you. Another day, another epic journey, an adventure of trust and faith, watching my children growing, leaving their home behind, making some brand new friendships I hope they'll have for life. There are places and faces I'll never forget. I've had the time of my life. If only you could see me with my kids and wife, I tell you I have it all because of you. And wife, I tell you I have it all because